I swear my brother is acting like a total stranger. Liam got back 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks since my life took a left turn into a back alley I didn't even know existed. He'd been on a cross-country road trip, finding himself, as he put it. Typical Liam, all tie-dye shirts and acoustic guitars, chasing inspiration. I'm Mark, the older, more grounded brother, software engineer, spreadsheet enthusiast. You get the picture. When he pulled into the driveway in his beat-up VW van, I was honestly relieved. Mom had been a nervous wreck, calling him every other day, and I was starting to get worried too. He looked tired, sun-baked, but okay. "Welcome back, wanderer," I'd said, giving him a brotherly hug. He squeezed back, but it felt different, less enthusiastic, more like he was going through the motions. The first few days were subtle, little things. He forgot Sarah's birthday, which was a huge deal since Sarah is basically his favorite person. He started drinking black coffee, which he'd always hated. He made this weird joke about pineapple on pizza, which he usually defended with the ferocity of a cornered badger. "Jet lag, probably," Sarah said, trying to reassure me. Give him time, but it wasn't jet lag, it was off. Then came the sleepwalking. Mom found him standing in the kitchen at 3 a.m., staring blankly into the refrigerator. When she asked him what he was doing, he mumbled something in a language she didn't understand and shuffled back to his room. I chalked it up to stress. He'd always been a bit of a night owl, and the road trip probably messed with his sleep schedule. But then I started hearing things too, faint whispers coming from his room in the dead of night. One evening I was working late in my home office. The house was quiet, everyone else asleep. Around 2 a.m. I heard it again, the whispering. It was low, guttural, almost chanting. Curiosity, or maybe just plain paranoia, got the better of me. I crept down the hall to Liam's room. The door was slightly ajar, a sliver of light spilling out. I pushed it open a crack and peeked inside. Liam was sitting on the floor, cross-legged, surrounded by candles. The walls, which used to be covered in posters of his favorite bands, were now plastered with strange symbols. Symbols I'd never seen before. He was swaying back and forth. His eyes closed, his lips moving silently. The whispering was louder now, more distinct. I couldn't make out the words, but the sound sent a shiver down my spine. It felt wrong, ancient, evil. "Liam," I whispered, pushing the door open further. He stopped chanting and his eyes snapped open. For a split second, I didn't recognize him. His eyes were wide, almost black, and his face was contorted in a way I'd never seen before. There was no warmth, no recognition. Just emptiness. "Who's there?" He rasped, his voice hoarse and unfamiliar. "It's me, Mark. Are you okay?" He stared at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then slowly his face relaxed and the light returned to his eyes. "Mark, what are you doing here?" he said, his voice back to normal but with an odd inflection, like he was trying to remember how to speak. I heard noises. I was worried. He looked around the room, his eyes widening in apparent surprise. "Noises? I don't know what you're talking about. I was just meditating." "Meditating? With that?" I gestured towards the symbols on the walls. He followed my gaze and shrugged. "Just some inspiration. I'm trying to get back into my art." I didn't believe him for a second. The next day I tried talking to Mom about it. She brushed it off, as usual. "He's just expressing himself, Mark. You need to be more supportive." "Mom." He was chanting in a language I've never heard before, and those symbols, they're not normal. "Oh, Mark, you always exaggerate. He's probably just learning a new language. You know how he is with his music." I sighed. Talking to Mom was like talking to a brick wall. Sarah was more understanding. "He's definitely acting weird," she agreed. "But maybe he just needs to see a therapist. It could be some kind of post-traumatic stress from the road trip." We managed to convince Mom to take Liam to Dr. Eliza Reed, a family therapist in town. Dr. Reed listened patiently to our concerns, but ultimately dismissed them. "He seems a little stressed, yes, but nothing out of the ordinary. I think he just needs time to adjust to being back home, and perhaps find a new hobby to keep him occupied," she said with a patronizing smile. I wanted to scream. The weirdness continued to escalate. Liam started spending hours in the basement, which used to be his art studio. I'd go down there to check on him, but he'd always slam the door in my face. I could hear him muttering to himself, the same strange chanting from his room. One afternoon, I was doing laundry when I noticed something strange in Liam's hamper. It was a tattered piece of paper with one of the symbols from his room drawn on it. But this wasn't just drawn with a pen or pencil. It was drawn with blood. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know what was going on. I waited until Liam went out to get groceries, and then I snuck down to the basement. The door was locked, but I managed to pick it with a paperclip, a skill I'd picked up from watching too many spy movies. The air in the basement was thick with the smell of incense, and something else, something metallic and acrid. The walls were completely covered in the strange symbols, painted in what looked like dried blood. In the center of the room there was a makeshift altar made of stacked cinder blocks. On top of the altar there was a small, intricately carved wooden box. I cautiously approached the altar and picked up the box. It was surprisingly heavy. I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest, and then I opened it. Inside, there was a single object, a piece of obsidian shaped like an eye. It was smooth and black, and it seemed to absorb all the light around it. I felt an inexplicable pull towards it, a feeling like I was being drawn into its depths. Suddenly, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Liam. I quickly put the box back on the altar and turned to face him. He was standing in the doorway, his eyes blazing with fury. "What are you doing here?" he snarled, his voice low and menacing. I just wanted to see what you were up to," I stammered. "Get out," he screamed, his voice cracking. "Liam, what's going on? What are those symbols? What's in that box?" He lunged at me, knocking me to the ground. He was stronger than I remembered. He pinned me down, his hands tightening around my throat. "You shouldn't have come down here," he hissed, his face inches from mine. "You don't understand what's happening." I struggled to breathe, my vision blurring. I could see something shift in his eyes, a flicker of the Liam I knew trapped inside. "Liam, it's me, Mark," I choked out. For a moment he hesitated, his grip loosened slightly. But then his eyes glazed over again and the fury returned. "Liam is gone," he whispered, his voice cold and emotionless. "I am something else now." He tightened his grip on my throat and I felt myself losing consciousness. Just as I was about to black out, he suddenly released me and stumbled back, clutching his head. "Get out," he screamed again, his voice filled with pain. "Get out and don't come back." I scrambled to my feet and ran out of the basement, gasping for air. I didn't stop running until I was safely inside my own house, locking the door behind me. I didn't see Liam again for 2 days. Mom said he'd gone for a walk and hadn't come back. She was starting to get worried, but she still refused to believe that anything was seriously wrong. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I called Maya, Liam's ex-girlfriend. They'd broken up a few months before his road trip, but I knew they were still close. "Maya, it's Mark. I need to ask you something about Liam." "Hey, Mark, what's up? Is everything okay?" "Not really. Liam's been acting really strange since he got back from his trip." "Did you notice anything weird about him before he left?" There was a long pause. "Well, yeah, actually. He was kind of obsessed with this old radio station. He kept tuning into it, even though it was mostly static. He said he could hear messages in the static, and he started drawing these weird symbols everywhere. I asked him what they meant, but he just said they were keys." "Keys to what?" "I don't know. He wouldn't tell me. He just got really secretive and creepy. That's one of the reasons we broke up." "Did he ever mention anything about a road trip before he broke up with you?" "No. He just suddenly one day said he needed to go away to clear his head and that he needed to go alone." I thanked Maya and hung up the phone. The radio station, the symbols, it was all connected. I remembered Mr. Henderson, the elderly neighbor who lived next door. He was always puttering around in his garden, keeping an eye on things. I decided to pay him a visit. "Mr. Henderson, have you seen anything strange happening at our house lately?" I asked. He squinted at me over his glasses. "Well, now that you mention it, I did see your brother burying something in the backyard late one night. It was a small box, I think." "Burying something? Where?" He pointed towards the far corner of the yard near the old oak tree. "That night, armed with a shovel, I went out to the backyard. I dug and dug, my hands trembling with anticipation and dread. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, I hit something hard. It was a small, wooden box identical to the one I'd found in the basement. I opened it, and inside there was another obsidian eye. I showed the artifact to Sarah. Her face paled. "Mark, this is not good. I've seen symbols like this before. They're connected to some kind of ancient cult. We spent hours researching the symbols and the obsidian eye online. We found vague references to a dark, forgotten cult that worshipped an ancient entity known as the Unblinking Eye. The cult was said to have practiced human sacrifice and performed rituals to open a gateway to another dimension." I felt sick to my stomach. The next day, Detective Ray Barnes showed up at our door. He was investigating a series of bizarre incidents in the town, missing pets, strange symbols appearing on buildings, reports of unsettling sounds in the woods. "Mr. Miller, we've received a few unusual reports, and your brother's name keeps coming up. Can you tell me anything about his recent behavior?" I told him everything, about the symbols, the chanting, the obsidian eye. He listened patiently, his expression unreadable. "I understand this must be difficult for you, Mr. Miller, but I need you to understand that this all sounds highly improbable. I'm not saying I don't believe you, but we need concrete evidence. I can show you the symbols. I can show you the artifact. I appreciate that, Mr. Miller, but until we have something more substantial, I'm afraid there's not much I can do." He left me his card and told me to call him if I had any further information. That night, Mom, in a fit of desperation and religious fervor, called Pastor Samuel to perform an exorcism on Liam. I tried to stop her, but she wouldn't listen. She was convinced that Liam was possessed by a demon. Pastor Samuel arrived with his Bible and a bottle of holy water. He went down to the basement and started chanting prayers in Latin. I could hear Liam screaming and thrashing around. I couldn't watch. I went for a drive, trying to clear my head. When I got back, the house was quiet. Mom and Pastor Samuel were sitting in the living room, looking exhausted. "It's done," Mom said, her voice trembling. "Pastor Samuel has cast out the demon. I didn't believe her for a second. I went down to the basement. Liam was lying on the floor, unconscious. He looked pale and gaunt. I knelt beside him and gently shook him awake. Liam, can you hear me? He opened his eyes and looked at me, his expression blank. Who are you? He whispered. My heart sank. I had to find out where that radio station was broadcasting from. I knew it was the key to everything. Using an old radio scanner, I started searching for the frequency that Maya had mentioned. After hours of searching, I finally found it. It was broadcasting from somewhere nearby on the outskirts of town. I got in my car and followed the signal. It led me to an abandoned building, an old radio transmitting station that had been shut down years ago. I parked my car and cautiously approached the building. The windows were boarded up and the door was hanging open. The air was thick with the smell of decay and ozone. I stepped inside. The building was dark and dusty, filled with old radio equipment and wires. The same strange symbols were painted on the walls. Then I heard it, the voice from the radio. It was low, guttural, and seemed to be coming from everywhere at once. Welcome, Mark, the voice said. We've been waiting for you. I spun around, searching for the source of the voice. Who's there? Show yourself. I am everywhere, Mark. I am in the walls, in the air, in your brother. What do you want? I want you, Mark. You are the perfect vessel, strong, intelligent, and willing. Suddenly, Liam stepped out of the shadows, but it wasn't Liam. His eyes were black and soulless, and his face was contorted in a grotesque grin. Liam, I whispered, my voice trembling. Liam is gone, Mark. I am wearing him now, but soon I will wear you. He held out his hand, and in it he held the obsidian eye. It glowed with an eerie light. Come, Mark. Embrace your destiny. Join us. The signal is getting stronger.